Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 13 of So Now You're a Teacher. I'm your host, Liesl McConchie, international expert on brain-based learning, author, teacher, and mother of three who can literally count on one hand how many times my children have brushed their teeth both morning and night in the last month. It's just not happening. We got a bigger fish to fry, right? Hey, in this episode, I'm going to answer the question, what is this feeling that I keep having and what can I do about it? And just in all my conversations with so many of the people that I interact with, so that would be people who are moms and dads of kids who are doing this home-based learning, as well as teachers, principals, superintendents. These are my two big circles that I run in right now, parents and educators. Every single person I've been speaking to in the last couple weeks has just been consumed by this feeling. And so I want to talk about it. We're going to take a quick look at it from the brain perspective, and then I want to share what does the research say that we can do to help us with this feeling, like this heaviness, this sadness, and it's not like a constant. Everyone I'm talking to is like, it's coming in these waves. It's this roller coaster of like, I feel like I'm owning it for a day or two, and then like, boom, it just hits me. And I'm back in the fetal position with my carton of ice cream on Netflix and just like sad, but still like having to hold it together for my kids and for my students. So it's possible that you are experiencing what we call compassion fatigue. Now, it's a real thing. It's a real syndrome, compassion fatigue. And people who are most susceptible to it, get this is probably why you're feeling it, because you're part of my audience, is caregivers, aka parents, and teachers. Because we're in positions where we are taking care of other people who need us. And so compassion fatigue is a real syndrome, and it is basically described as anyone who's feeling distressed by the suffering of others. Now, it might not be the suffering of your students or your children, but just what's happening out in the world right now. It's just getting sad and heavy, and it's just big. And so I thought we could take a quick episode to talk about this. So compassion fatigue, some people struggle with it more than others. So if you aren't feeling this, that's great. This might be helpful for you to pass on to someone else who you know is struggling. There are those of us who are more susceptible to it. About 20% of the population is what we call highly sensitive people. And they tend to have a sensory system that is amplified and more in tune to other people's feelings and other senses out there in the world. One of my children is a highly sensitive child, so I know a little bit about this, and just as well as from the research. So there are people who are more susceptible to it, and also, like I said, caregivers and parents. So basically, here's the takeaway. Empathy is a really great emotion. We need more of it in the world. It's dwindling. I've written a whole article on why it's dwindling, the science of empathy. I'll post a link to it down below. But just like any emotional state, in extremes, it can be debilitating. It can be unhealthy to experience these emotional states at extremes. So too little empathy is unhealthy, but also too much empathy can be really harmful to our bodies and to our brains. Now, what the heck is empathy, and why are some of us feeling it so deeply? So empathy is basically any time that our brain can map someone else's experience onto our own brain. So it could be that your friend is talking about, they're so frustrated because they dropped their phone and cracked their screen. And then your brain over here, because you've also experienced that before, your mirror neurons, specific neurons in your brain activate because it can relate and it mirrors that experience, activate and recall those memories, and now you're experiencing empathy. Now, sometimes we haven't had the exact same experience as our friend or as someone that we're seeing on the news, but we're still experiencing compassion fatigue because we're still experiencing high levels of empathy. Because empathy does not require you to have had the exact same experience, But anytime you can relate to the same kind of emotion, that also triggers an empathic response in the brain. So both kinds can happen. Now, what can we do about this? If you are feeling like this deep, deep heaviness, and it's highly possible that it's compassion fatigue. Here is what the research says. I've dug into the research and I want to share with you. There are 3 strategies that we can use for ourselves, that we can use as teachers, as parents, with our kids to help us through this process of surviving a global pandemic, right? This is not about getting our schoolwork done. This is about taking care of ourselves and getting our brains healthy so that we can function in our jobs, in our schoolwork, and that our kids can get their schoolwork done. So here's what the research actually says. Strategy number 1. I'm a little bit hesitant to say that. I'm trying to figure out how to say this so that it doesn't come across as insensitive. But according to the research, if you are experiencing deep, deep compassion fatigue, take the I out of empathy. Now, what I mean by that is that sometimes when we're feeling empathic towards someone or groups of people, we tend to put ourselves in their shoe and we think like, man, what would I feel like if I were a doctor right now? If I were a senior in high school and not being able to like have a prom or have my graduation ceremony? If I was losing a parent to COVID-19? Like, these are really hard things that people are dealing with. But when we put the I into it and we say like, how would I feel if that was happening to me? The research says it does the other person no good, and it definitely doesn't help us. So what do we do instead? What we do instead is we ask ourselves, how might that person be feeling? How might that senior in high school be feeling who isn't going to be able to like walk across the stage, who isn't going to have their big grad night celebration? How is this person possibly feeling right now? Instead of internalizing the feeling, creating just that little bit of gap there between your brain and their brain can help relieve the pressure of some of the compassion fatigue. Strategy number 2, according to the research, we've talked about this before, but mindfulness practices can be really, really helpful to help us just bring us back to our own current situation and stay grounded. We've talked about it so many times. Increase your own personal level of control is how we keep our stress levels down. And that includes with compassion fatigue. So if you have yet to tinker with mindfulness, here's a couple apps you might want to explore. Calm, Waking Up, or Smiling Mind. Check out one of those, see if it can help you start a mindfulness practice. 1 minute a day is all you need to get started to really help yourself stay grounded. And then the third and final one, and this is one that like there's just so much of it going on right now. It's just such a beautiful thing. But the last one is to do something altruistic. And what that means is get out there and put your feelings into action. Do something to do some good out in the world. So if that means like getting out your sidewalk chalk and writing some like nice message for the neighbors who are out on their walks, do it. If it means like posting a happy picture or a meme on social media, do that. If you want to donate money to a cause that you really believe in, do that. Like, do something that helps you feel like you're doing something to alleviate the fatigue and the pressures out there in the world. And that can help relieve some of your compassion fatigue. So I just wanted to interrupt our normal like brain stuff to talk briefly about that in this episode. I hope you guys are doing okay. Hang in there. I love that we're just so much beauty out there right now and all the empathy that people are showing. But I want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as well and that we're aware that compassion fatigue is a real thing. Check out the link below if you want some more information about that. But until now, I just want to let you know I'm probably going to be starting to do these a little bit less frequently, maybe just a few a week, because I need to be taking care of myself as well. And the fatigue is real And so I will see you guys soon in a couple days or so, back with some more information. I think we're going to talk about the brain's attention capacity next. I think it'll be really interesting for you guys. So until then, take a deep breath. Oxygen is good for the brain. Hang in there, guys.